Welcome to episode 1 of Spoon-Fed Truth, a podcast about life, disability, caregiving, and everything in between. My name is Vicky. I have been a full-time carer for my husband Paul for 9 years now, ever since he suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. He is non-verbal, he's a quadriplegic, and he needs 24/7 care. He is also clearly extremely handsome. We've been married for 16 years. We are parents to 2 amazing children. And you know I use that term very loosely because they shit me up the wall. Anyway, I'd like to introduce my 2 co-hosts. We have Emma and Damien.
Hi.
Emma, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm one of Paul's support workers. So I've worked with Paul for 7 years and practically adopted myself into their family. And Paul is my bestie. I've worked in the industry for 9 years and Damien.
Yeah, Damien.
Okay. Hi, my name is Damien. Been working with Paul for just over 3 years now. It's been quite a journey being on his program. Some very interesting shifts, that's for sure. But yeah, all in all, just a pretty good experience, and I've learned a lot just from being here. So yeah, excited to be here.
Cool. So this podcast isn't about inspiration. It's about reality, and clearly this is our reality. It's about what happens after the hospital, after the rehab, after everyone else moves on and you're still here doing the work. It's about the grief that comes with love. It's the invisible load of caregiving. It's the moments that break you and the ones that, carry you. I created this space because I know what it's like to feel alone in this, to scroll the internet at 2 a.m. looking for stories that sound even a little bit that are just like mine. I know it's quite unique, our story. And if you're here listening to us, maybe you're living it too as a carer or a partner, a friend, or someone navigating disability yourself, or maybe you work in the industry. Each episode, we'll talk honestly. I'll share parts of my story. I'll talk with other carers, other disabled people, kids, professionals, and we'll dig into the messy, beautiful, painful, funny, very real world of disability and long-term care. So thank you for being here, and let's start at the beginning.
Maybe we can start with you telling us about what happened to Paul.
Yeah. So, okay, where do I begin? It was Friday, 15th of July, 2016. I was at work. Mm-hmm. So I had been visiting a client, and earlier in the day, just for some, background information, earlier in the day, I had tried to call Paul twice on the phone, and he didn't answer. Not that that was unusual, but I just couldn't get a hold of him. I figured he must have been busy. And I went to see a client, and I was driving home, and I was like debating whether or not I would go and pick up the kids from mum's house and then go and finish, the rest of my work from home. And as I'm driving along, the phone starts ringing, and it was Paul's number that came up. And when I answered it, it was a female voice, and she said, "Who's this?" And I was like, "Who's this?" Because who answers the phone like that? Anyway.
Unknown woman.
Yeah, that's right.
And she was basically asking, who am I in relation to Paul? And I honestly thought that it was one of Paul's workmates maybe playing a joke, like he's gotten one of his female co-workers to answer the phone just to,
Stir the pot.
shit me, yes. But then I said, I'm his wife. And I was just about to say, can you just put Paul on the phone? Like, piss off and put him on the phone. But I heard like she had blocked the, she had turned her her voice away from the phone, and she said, it's the wife. And then the phone was given to someone else, and it was a male police officer that got on the phone. He said, I'm Constable whatever. Your husband's been in a motorbike accident. And I said, okay. He said, look, you know, he's been taken to hospital. And I was just thinking, wait, he's alive, right? And he goes, yeah, he's alive. And I said, okay, I'll head over to hospital. At no point did I think that it was as serious as what it actually was. So I rang Mum and I said, Paul's been in an accident. Can you just, you know, you'll have to be with the kids for a bit longer. I'm just going to go make sure he's okay. He's got everything he needs. And I headed straight over to hospital. And on the way, I get a phone call from one of the surgeons. She rambled off all this medical jargon that I didn't even understand. And she was basically asking for consent for whatever surgery that they had to do. All I remember was it was something about they were concerned about his bowel. So I knew from that point that there was some internal damage going on, but it still didn't sink into my mind that this was something more serious, like his life was in danger. Like that never crossed my mind. And I got to emergency, and I had gone in and I spoke to reception, and I explained my husband's been brought in by ambulance. And she was a little bit rude, the receptionist, and I'm standing there, I'm like waiting for her to, you know, type on the computer, and she said to me, oh, he's in surgery at the moment. And I said, okay, do I just wait here? And she said, no, go up to ICU. When he comes out of surgery, he'll be in ICU. And I said, okay, I'll head up to ICU. And she said, yeah, because he's in a critical condition. And that was the first time I was like, critical condition?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this lady talking about?
Yeah, that's right.
She said, yeah, she realised that I didn't know how serious it actually was. And she said, yeah, just head over to ICU. I remember her voice kind of...
Demeanor change.
Yeah, very much so. And I kind of like felt like, oh crap, that's
pretty interesting in itself. Like, can I just say?
Yeah.
Like, that's like an interesting little part of the story, because then it just shows you as well, like, how not insensitive some healthcare workers can be, but they're so desensitized to tragedy and having to deal with people that, like, maybe that's not on the forefront of their mind when you come across a situation like that. So
exactly,
interesting way to find out.
Yeah, and so I had walked out of there in a bit of a daze, and I thought, okay, I better ring his mum and his dad. And so I rang his mum first, but she didn't answer the phone. And I rang his dad, and his dad said, I'm on my way. But I remember my voice quivering when I was like, he's in a critical condition.
Yeah.
Like,
just started registering.
Wait, what does that mean? What does critical condition mean? Like, he's alive, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, he's hanging on by a thread.
Yep.
I went up to ICU and I just sat and waited. And it was after maybe, I'd say about half an hour, I sat there alone. I waited for Paul's mum and dad to come. I had also called my sister, and she said her and my brother-in-law were going to come and meet us at the hospital. And in walked Paul's supervisor from work, and he came and sat down and introduced himself because I hadn't met the guy before. And I said, do you know what happened? Because I'm kind of, I have no idea what exactly happened. And he said, all I can tell you is, so Paul was a truck driver.
Yeah.
And normally he would park his truck and wait for the warehouse guys to load it. And so he would normally go and jump in a smaller truck because he drove the semi-trailers. He would jump into one of the smaller trucks to go and get some lunch. But all the smaller trucks were blocked in by bigger trucks. And I think because, just how the warehouse is set out, there was no way for him to get out. So he thought, oh, stuff it, I'll just jump on my bike.
Yeah.
So he had, that week, he was riding his bike to work every day. Side story, once in a while he would make me pick him up from work so he could then ride his bike for about a week to work. So that was one of the weeks he was riding his bike. So he jumped on his bike and he had left the driveway, gone down the road, basically turned a corner. And I think at the time we didn't know, but he gave it a bit of an acceleration on the bike. And I didn't still know at that time this much detail. The supervisor just said to me, they noticed that, not all the guys who had left for lunch or whatever had come back, and they noticed that Paul was also not back yet. And they heard all the police and ambulance, and there was some sort of commotion down the road. It wasn't very far from his workplace. So a couple of the guys went down to have a look and came back and confirmed that it was Paul on his bike who had the accident. So basically what happened was Paul was going one way. There was a truck coming in the opposite direction, and he had slowed down and was getting ready to turn into a driveway, so crossing Paul's path. And he had turned. He didn't see Paul, and Paul didn't see him.
Yeah.
And Paul collided with the rear tire of the truck.
Wow.
So Paul had, from what the police told me when they came around midnight-ish to the hospital, they said that what they saw on the CCTV footage, that the truck didn't give Paul enough time to stop. So Paul anticipated the crash, and because he was an experienced rider, he's pushed himself off the bike and hit the tire and then ricocheted.
Wow.
Maybe about 20 meters down the road. I also found out that he wasn't wearing his usual bike safety gear except for the helmet. Thank God he was wearing that.
Yeah, very lucky.
But because he wasn't wearing his usual, he had Kevlar jeans and stuff. So he had that big graze on his leg that took lots of layers of skin off and took a very long time to heal.
Yeah, so long.
As you guys know. So from that, it was really hard because we're sitting in hospital and you don't know what's going on, and no one's coming to tell you anything. Paul's mum and dad came, his brother was there, my sister and my brother-in-law came, and we were just sitting there talking like, we don't know what's going on. I sent his supervisor home because I said, we're going to be here for hours. There's no point you sitting here. I'll let you know as soon as I know something. And
How old were your kids when it happened?
So Layla was in kindergarten, so she was 5, and Sophia was in preschool. I think she was 4. Yeah, she was 4. So they were quite young. And when so I didn't even know what I was going to tell them. Like, I didn't even think about the kids. All I was thinking was, is Paul going to survive this?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
is he going to be okay? The nurse finally came out just after midnight, and she said like two of us could go in to see him. So myself and Paul's dad, we went into ICU, and you got to gown up and wash your hands and do all that you have to do every single time you go into ICU. And we went in, and all I saw was Paul lying there. He had a sheet over him, but they explained that during surgery they could not close him up because he was so swollen.
Wow.
So it was like this. So his stomach was open, and they just had like a blue sheet that covered his organs and insides. He had a broken arm. His leg was in a cast. His arm was in a cast. They told me that he had broken or fractured the C6 and 7 vertebrae from memory. And they called it a toxic brain injury, which means when the accident happened, he was lying there for a good 15-20 minutes before the ambulance had come. And the toxic brain injury is when there's no oxygen going to the brain during that time. I didn't know the details, obviously, at that time. That came later on, talking to doctors. Even the doctors, they didn't really give you a lot of information.
So, obviously, at the scene, with all those injuries that they've described, that's pretty serious. If they haven't responded in 15 minutes, so was there anyone there that was like attending to him, or
No one attended to him.
so he was just there until
he was lying there. The truck driver, obviously, he got out, and he just saw Paul lying there. I think he was the one calling an ambulance,
but nobody rendered like first aid or tried anything.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's like,
and
that's a miracle that he's survived that, because
Survived,
most people,
yes.
isn't it like 4 minutes without oxygen to the brain and that's it?
I don't know if that's
Something
how long
like
it
that.
takes, but I
Yeah.
guess it depends on the severity of the injury.
Yeah.
And at that stage, I mean, first aid, you can't just take his helmet off.
No,
You
yes,
can't
that's
really
right.
touch him. But yeah, he was knocked out.
Yeah.
They did put him into an induced coma. And after a couple of days, when they started to lift the medication, the drugs that were keeping him in an induced coma, they were trying to wake him up and pinching him and, doing all the usual things that they do to try and wake him up. He just wasn't waking up. Yeah, sorry, I know you've heard this story, Paulie, so many times. But I think it's an important one to get out there, because
a lot of people can relate to it too. So
definitely, I mean, he spent 3 months in a coma, and then he was in a minimally conscious state, as they say, where he was showing signs of waking up, which was really, really good. And they didn't really know. Doctors won't tell you the level of damage, because they don't know until he wakes up, and then we can start to see, is he, can he talk? Can he remember what happened? Does he recognize who we are? And things like that. So from then he went into, sorry, I'll go back. They wanted me to basically turn the machines off and let nature take its course. I wasn't ready to make that decision. I wouldn't even know how to make that decision. It's
I don't think anybody like is ready to make that decision.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's like I'm still dealing with the fact that I didn't want to be a widow. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be a single parent.
And how do you tell your kids that? Yeah.
That was the other
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I think I was just, the shock didn't set in until I was driving home. Sorry. It didn't dawn on me the severity of what had
Yeah.
happened until that night, the first night. I was driving, I had to drive home, and my sister said, "We're going to drive behind you." And as soon as I drove out of the hospital driveway, the tears just flooded, and I was screaming. It was that intense, and it was like I just couldn't help it. It was just
Yeah.
coming out, and I I honestly don't know how I got home that night. The kids stayed with mum. I went straight home. I got into the house and I found, so Paul had this blue jumper that he used to wear religiously, and it still smelled like him. And I took it to bed, and I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in the middle of the night, and I was screaming.
Yeah.
And earlier that year, my dad had passed away. I had two other relatives that had passed away. So I was screaming out to them. I'm like, anyone on the other side who can hear me right now, don't let him die.
Yeah.
I don't care what you have to do, but I need help.
Yeah.
I need
Guidance.
spiritual
Yeah.
help. I need medical help. Do whatever it is you have to do. Do not let him die. And it was like, to hell with neighbors,
Yeah.
because I was screaming that much, and I cried myself to sleep.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about the kids because I knew mum had them. And the next day I got up and I thought, I've got to go straight to hospital. The shit show is about to start,
Yeah.
because word was getting around. I got to hospital and, all the relatives are there, all of Paul's family, uncles, aunties, cousins. And I thought, I hope, who do I have to tell?
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to think, like, what am I supposed to do? There was I couldn't see too far forward.
Yeah.
And it was a Saturday, so, lots of people came, and yeah,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Sorry. Like when you're saying that, it just reminded me actually, like the other night I was saying, Patriots Day.
yeah,
So there's a moment where like after the bombings have happened and these people are getting treated and, the FBI is taking over the scene and everything. So he goes through like this crazy sequence of however many hours he's dealt with it. So he's like sleep deprived and everything. And he finally gets home to his wife. And all the family is there and they're all questioning him like, hey, like what's going on, like can you let us know what's happening, is it terrorism, blah blah blah. And it just reminded me of that, where it's like the person who's closest to the details is almost has to like adopt the responsibility of like being the one to tell everybody what's happening.
yes.
Did you feel like that was like giving you a lot of pressure during that time?
I guess in a way, yes. It wasn't necessarily a priority because I knew I had to be there. I knew I was about to talk to doctors and nurses and, get an update on how we went overnight. And I think seeing all the family there, it was a little bit overwhelming. But as soon as I got to ICU, where they all were, the owner of the company that Paul worked for, so the big boss, because it was a family run company, but it's a pretty big company. I was introduced to him and I thought, wow, the big boss is here. Wait till Paul hears this kind of thing, and he was so kind. And very understanding, and I was just blown away with his compassion. Like he showed up to work, and I knew that people at Paul's work respected him a lot. He got what was it? The Employee of the Month.
Yeah.
There was incentives. They had paid for him to upgrade his license. So obviously he was a good worker that they really respected. But it was following his accident, I just had a newfound appreciation for that company, because they have been, to this day, very, very supportive of us, even though obviously Paul hasn't been working there for quite some time. Sorry, I'm just going to push your sunnies back up. They keep falling down.
Shout out to them.
They were great, and kept in touch and everything. So it was quite overwhelming, but then I think everyone else kind of got the word out, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have to tell my boss. How am I going to go back to work when I need to be here? I need to be at hospital and deal with all of this.
And you worked in the industry?
Well, I worked, so since I was 18, I had worked in aged care.
Yeah.
And I had been in management, so it wasn't like this scenario was not new to me, as in, I was used to being in hospitals and
things happen.
I did case management, so, but it's different when it happens to you. So I've worked in the industry, case managing and being around disability and things like that, but it's different when it happens to you.
Yeah.
So I have the advantage of seeing things from the professional side, but now I'm seeing it from the other side, the client side, and that changed my perspective a lot. On the whole industry. So it was a lot to take in, and I feel like for the next 2 years I was a little bit on autopilot. Even though I remember things that happened, I remember the events that occurred, but to think back on it now, it's like I don't know how I got through it.
Yeah.
We had a meeting about a couple of days into it with the doctor. It was basically the medical team, and they wanted me to, let nature take its course. So what they were saying is, we want to turn the ventilator, respirator, all of the machines off, and just see,
How
what
it goes,
happens. Which they were basically saying, we're just going to let him die peacefully.
Yeah.
They thought that Paul was going to end up a vegetable. That's what they were telling me. It would be nursing home care and things like that. And I thought, you don't know me, do you?
Not a chance. It's not going to happen.
I'm not going to let that happen to my husband. But I also, you put your trust in the medical team. They're the ones that know what they're doing, but I just did not feel that turning all of his machines off was the right thing to do. I think I was more making decisions intuitively.
Yeah.
So I did have contact with a like a Reiki healer.
Okay.
She was a psychic that I had. My cousin had been seeing her, and I had one session with her. And when I had to make that decision, whether or not to keep Paul alive or not, I rang her and I was like, they're making me make a decision. I don't know what to do. I kind of need a little bit of guidance. And she said to me, she was in the middle of Woolworths. She said the phone line was breaking up and I had to hang up. And then she ran out of Woolworths and called me back, and she said, I can tell you, Paul is fighting to stay here. He's fighting. He is tired, but he's fighting. Don't give up on him. She said, I feel very strongly to tell you, don't give up on him.
Yeah.
And I knew that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
I just needed someone to tell me that what I was feeling was right.
Yes. Yeah.
He's meant to be here. And I did think if Paul wants to give up fighting, if he wants to let go and pass away, I would accept that. But I wanted to do everything in my power to give him the opportunity to fight as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the medical team have their place, but sometimes your spiritual side kicks in, and I heavily rely on my intuitive side, on my spiritual side, to guide me through things. And I'm glad I did, because I think if God was going to take him, he would have.
Yeah, that's right. You got to have faith. That's right. Yeah.
And you know, I'm big on faith.
Yes.
And it's helped me get through, and Paul as well. It's helped us both get through the really hard times, and there have been a lot of hard times. And I also found I have met some pretty amazing people post accident.
Yeah.
Some, you know, lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Not you guys, but you know, there's other people who are
but
much
not
better. But yeah, just people who have come into our lives that didn't know us beforehand, but mean so much to both of us now, because of, you know, you guys have seen us at our worst, including tonight when half of the dinner fell on the ground,
flipped on the ground,
and I lost my shit.
Trying to enjoy a family dinner, and
but yeah, so
there's never a dull moment. Really.
Never a dull moment, and you know, we go through. It's been 9 years. This month, it's 9 years since all that happened, and I guess this was just on the cards for us. I know not only has it obviously changed our lives, it just turns everything upside down. But I can see Paul's personality has changed, and that comes with brain injury. Very common that, you know, personality changes, memory difficulties. Paul's got the added bonus of being non-verbal, so we were hoping by now that he would be able to talk, but it's that part of his brain that's been damaged. So the part that controls muscles, basically. So the body works, you know, the muscles work, the vocal cords work. It's just Paul's ability to control them. That's the part that's injured quite badly. So unfortunately, this is where we are, but it's why therapy is very important.
Very important.
And I've learnt so much. So
I think we all have, really.
Really. I mean,
working here.
I don't think, Paulie, you even realise how many lives you have touched in the last 9 years without realising. Like, often we have, as you know, we have 2 carers 24/7.
24/7.
And that, you know, has its challenges in itself, which we'll go into another time. But
just having to adapt to that is,
and I don't know that it's something you truly get used to, because my kids have only ever known carers. Like, they don't even really, Layla, little bit, because she was older, so she has a little bit of memory of dad as an able-bodied person, but Sophia, I don't believe she does. She says she does, but I think she's just heard stories about things that dad did, and so she goes, oh yeah, I remember that. I'm like, there's no way you remember that. Okay, whatever you say.
Can I ask something? So I've learned a lot from Paul, even though he's non-verbal. And a lot of the way that I've learned from him is through learning about myself in that process. Now, obviously, the dynamic between you guys has changed. Here he comes, Mr. Nacho.
This is Nacho.
Hold on, he should get on camera for a second.
Yeah, this is our kid.
This is the first son.
Say hi, Nacho.
He's quite excited.
Uh-oh,
Yes.
here comes the
Get
big
him,
one.
Okay. So obviously the dynamic between you guys has changed. So like, what do you what do you notice most about like the dynamic between you guys now that has changed, and what can you still appreciate about it, even though it may be a little bit different?
Definitely our roles have changed. Like, obviously they have changed. I've had to take on the role of, so you've heard me say, like, I don't want to be Paul's carer. I want to be his wife, but I have to be the carer.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be home. I wasn't going to send him to, a group home or a nursing home or anything like that. It wasn't on the cards. So definitely our roles within the family have changed. And I know that's still very difficult for Paul to accept, because your dignity, your privacy, your manhood, as you can imagine. And I've had to become the main breadwinner of the house and steer this ship and be the single parent, even though I'm not technically a single parent. I still, involve Paul in a lot of decision making, not all the decision making, but I do I do want to make sure that he is involved in things that I still do around the house.
And family decisions of your kids and that sort of thing. He's still a dad.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, for example, kids have parent-teacher interviews this week, and I think if I made a big enough deal about it, the school would accommodate, but it means the teachers having to change a lot of things around, and I don't like to stir things too much, because I can just get in there, do it, and come home and then let him know how it's gone. But where possible, I do try to talk to him about it. Paul is still the person that, I cry on his shoulder. And I love that he, without doing anything, he is still that person.
Yeah.
Like, he's my husband, so he
biggest supporter.
It has its challenges. Obviously, because I'm not getting, it's not a two-way communication. But we've learnt obviously to communicate with Paul using eye blinks. And sometimes sounds as well. But we're in the very still 9 years later, we're still in the very basic and early stages of things. But I am hopeful that we will get there. I would love for Paul to be able to, at the very least, communicate verbally yes and no. That is, without a doubt, you cannot get that wrong. If you want to ask him something, he's saying yes or no. You're not relying on blinks. Or how sometimes he'll swallow and then do 2 blinks straight afterwards. It's like, no, you can't read him like that. And that also becomes a challenge when you're training a new staff member. Where you're like, oh he blinks twice for yes and no blinks for no. But if you don't know him, you can get that wrong very easily and interpret things incorrectly. So you need a good 2-3 months to really get to know Paul.
Yeah, you do, definitely.
Communication wise. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's still challenging today, even for me. To I don't like making decisions for him. I want Paul to make as many choices in his life as possible, but obviously not everything is possible
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess
Wanna add something? Go.
I don't know. No, I'm trying to do the
What?
going.
Okay, so now you feel the pressure, hey? Now I was gonna say, so an interesting thing that I've learned about you just by working with you guys so long, you get to know people just spending time with them, and you are like a very giving person,
Mm-hmm.
and although Paul isn't able-bodied enough to be able to do a lot of the things that he'd probably like to do, not as just as a person, but as a dad and as a husband and all that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely as a husband.
Yeah. So
9 years.
Keep that in mind.
yes.
When you go to bed tonight, keep that in mind.
Yes, let's think about bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would do you feel as though the connection that you still have with them is still something that is special to you and gives you some level of satisfaction in some way? Because obviously, there's a lot of things he can't do, but from his perspective, I think probably what he can do is receive love, which I think a lot of people don't think about sometimes in the context of a relationship. That's actually something I'm learning to do myself. And you being a giving person, like I still see you guys still be very affectionate with each other and stuff like that, which is nice. So, like,
My affection is hardcore.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay, so I know what you're saying. I feel, and I don't know if you agree, Paulie. Are you awake? Yes, you are. I feel our relationship now is stronger than it's ever been, and simply because I have to make decisions on his behalf, and I want to do what's best for him, but also keeping in mind the times when Paul is unable to tell me what he wants.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm doing what I think he would want. So, when, we've been married for 16 years, and I mean, it hasn't, even before the accident, it wasn't always smooth sailing. We, just like any other marriage things, you have ups and downs, you have arguments and whatever. I feel that after his accident, I love him so much more deeply now than I did before, because so I'm an empath, and I know that when I love someone, I love with my entire being. And I think we have been paired that this way, because this is what Paul needs.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do ask you from time to time, Paulie, I ask him, do you feel loved?
Yes.
And you do say yes, you do feel the love, right? Yes, he's blinking yes. And it's because I'm not joking when I say I love intensely. I need Paul to feel my love in every way.
Yeah.
Because we have a heart connection, which is, I know we've talked about heart connections before. It's very, very important in a relationship that I feel like I just know what he needs.
Yeah.
And I know there's been times, and I can give you an example. sometimes I just know what he needs. I just know it, without Paul, making any sound. There was an example, it was a few years ago, where I woke up. It was like early hours of the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I had a dream. It was like an intense dream. And I woke up and I felt like I had really bad heartburn. And the first thought that came into my mind was, I think Paul's got heartburn.
Wow.
And so I've gone downstairs and I've gone in, and Paul was awake. And I was like, oh, you're awake. And he did look distressed. And I said, you don't have heartburn by any chance? And he's blinking yes at me. And I thought, oh my God, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So after, all this time and everything we've been through, that I am so well connected to him that I just know.
Yeah.
I just know when he needs something. And I know I don't always get it right. Like none of us do. And, until the communication side improves,
Yeah.
I'm just going to, rely on that which I've been doing. But yeah, I do think it's definitely made our relationship stronger, because my method of loving someone, I love very generously. I'm a very giving person. I always have been.
Yeah.
But now is the time when that really, Paul really needs that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, that's right.
I will love him forever.
Yeah,
Never,
that's right.
Never, never,
That's
never,
right.
and you're never getting rid of me. And
Yeah.
don't really care.
So, just taking yourself back to when the accident actually happened.
Mhm.
A lot of what you talked about, you were saying how you don't know how you got through any of it, and probably a massive emotional roller coaster for you,
Mm-hmm.
like a probably 1,001 things going through your head, and there probably is other people who are going through the same thing or will be going through that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, with the years that have gone past now, what would be like some words of encouragement or words of advice that you would give to yourself at that moment that maybe somebody else could benefit from?
Yeah, look, I would always say, for anyone going through something similar, don't ever give up fighting.
Yeah.
Even when doctors and nurses are telling you that's it, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Trust your instincts. They're there for a reason. And if you feel like you have to fight, then fight. Because we all have our path. And I know I copped quite a bit of, I'll say, negativity. I did a lot of interviews and things over the years with various media platforms. And so generally people's feedback has been very supportive, but there were the few odd people that would say, how could you have, I would never have done that to my partner. He wouldn't want to be living like this. And I get that. I wouldn't want it. Paul definitely wouldn't want it, but it wasn't
also easy to say from the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
They're not
But
living it at this moment.
I look at it in, it wasn't my decision. It
Yeah.
wasn't my decision to make. It was Paul's decision. If he wanted to stop fighting, then
That's right.
I would have accepted it, but I also wanted to give him every opportunity to fight. If they turn
Yes.
everything off, where does that leave me. I've made that decision for him.
Yeah.
So I just think it's important for people to trust their gut.
Yeah.
Um,
And for Paul, like, he gets to watch his children grow up.
exactly.
He gets to, he doesn't miss out on a lot of things either.
And it's giving, like, Paul had a reason to fight.
Yeah.
You know, and he spent a good year and a half, nearly 2 years, in the brain injury rehab unit that's linked to the hospital. And I saw a lot of young guys, a lot of motor vehicle accident survivors.
Yeah.
Paul, there was probably, during that year and a half, there was Paul. Paul was one of three really bad cases.
Yeah.
And when I say really bad, like, they were non-verbal, they were also quadriplegics, severe, quite severe brain injury. There was someone who was in a worse position than Paul, a young guy who was only like 23 years old, also was in a motorbike accident. It was really sad. And I look, when I'd see his mum and I'd think, I don't know that I would want my son to be. He was very young, so I don't know that I'd want him to be living that kind of life where
he's missed out on a lot of things. He will miss out on a lot of things. Yeah, he doesn't have that.
The difference was, because I know people are going to say, well, you did it to your husband. But the difference is, I saw from early on that Paul understood when I was talking to him.
Yes, yeah.
From the moment he was like starting to wake up from his coma and he was showing the signs, and I'm holding his hand, and I said, you know, I just want you to squeeze my hand. If you can hear me, just squeeze my hand. And then I started feeling his fingers, you know, wrapping around my hand. Like, you know, obviously it's very, very soft.
Yes.
But I felt the movement. And that was absolutely incredible to feel that. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. You're squeezing my hand.
Yeah.
I was so happy. And even though he couldn't follow every command, but he could definitely, I knew he was there.
Yeah.
And for months afterwards, I felt like no one believed me that Paul was there.
Yeah.
You know, cognitively, I don't think he's as bad as what you're making him out to be.
Yes, yeah.
And it turned out I was right.
Yeah. I've heard this story so many times, and every single time it gets me so emotional. Like, it doesn't get easier. And I feel like even working with Paul, he puts things into perspective, and we take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I think that makes for a pretty good first episode, I would say. We're able to, you know, talk a little bit about how the story unfolded. I'm sure there's a lot of different things that we haven't yet touched on that probably a lot of people will be interested in. So if you're watching this and you feel like it's been of value to you, and you feel like maybe you might be going through the same thing, or you know somebody who is going through something similar, we'd like to just open up some sort of a forum. So we have an email that you guys can email. So if you have any questions, or maybe you know you want to mention somebody who might be going through something, and even just share something that you might think will be helpful to us, be sure to write to us through our social medias or our email, which we'll put in the description below. So I just want to thank you guys for watching and taking your time out to hear what we have to say.
Shout out the team that we work with, all the support workers that work here. Everyone's doing such a great job. So you can also drop your shout outs on social media, and we'll read them out live on our podcast. Woo!